Today, we're doing something a little different. Instead of just looking at history, we're actually going to investigate a disappearance. Yeah, you heard me right. We're cracking open a 170-year-old cold case to try and figure out what on earth happened to a woman who, on paper, just ceased to exist.
I mean, really think about that for a second. How does that even happen? One moment, a person's life is all there in black and white, marriage records, births, census data, and the next, poof, just silence. That's the central mystery we're diving into today, and it all revolves around one woman, Sarah Fletcher Kemp.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll open the cold case file. Then we'll dig into our one crucial piece of evidence, the family Bible. From there, we'll trace the incredible legacy she left behind, right before we hit the exact moment the trail goes dead cold. And finally, we'll grapple with what it means to have a story that just doesn't have an ending.
Okay, let's get into it. Part 1, a genealogical cold case. It's time to meet the woman at the heart of this whole mystery. Her name was Sarah Fletcher Kemp, and her life story is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle where the most important piece is just gone.
So what do we actually know? Well, the file starts out pretty thin, to be honest. We have a name, Sarah Fletcher, and a date of birth, July 7th, 1802. But right out of the gate, we hit a brick wall. Her parents? Unknown. Any brothers or sisters? No idea. Her story literally begins with a giant question mark.
So that brings us to Section 2, the Kemp Family Bible. Every good cold case needs a break, right? That one piece of evidence that changes everything. For this story, it's a family Bible. This thing is the bedrock of everything we know.
And here it is. This single sentence, transcribed from that old Bible, gives us the absolute cornerstone of Sarah's adult life. On April 16, 1818, she marries a man named Abraham Kemp. And from this moment on, her story becomes completely tied to the Kemp family.
But what's really wild is thinking about how this one clue even survived to get to us. The actual Bible was passed down through the family, but it was a simple transcript of its pages, donated to a genealogical society that was eventually discovered by a researcher just stumbling through a library in the 1990s. It's a powerful reminder of just how fragile history is, and how easily these stories can be completely lost.
All right, on to part 3, a legacy of 11. Now that Sarah's married, her life really starts to take shape, and you can pretty much measure her entire legacy by one staggering number.
11. Let that sink in for a second. Between 1820 and 1847, Sarah and Abraham had 11 children. That's 27 straight years where her life was almost certainly a constant cycle of pregnancy, birth, and raising a massive family in rural Ontario. This wasn't just a fact about her life, it pretty much was her life.
Just look at this list. It starts with Weighty Catherine in 1820 and goes all the way to Wesley in 1847. It's an almost non-stop 27-year testament to a life spent building a family. And pay close attention to that last name. Wesley, born in 1847, is the last official record we have of Sarah's active life.
And that brings us to Section 4, the trail goes cold. We've built up this whole picture of a wife and a mother to 11 children. And this is the exact moment where that picture just cuts to black.
The entire mystery really hinges on this tiny 4-year window. In 1847, Sarah gives birth to her 11th child. Then just 4 years later, in 1851, the very first official Canadian census is taken. Logically, she should be listed right there with her husband and kids, but she isn't. This right here is the moment the trail goes cold. The 1851 census should have listed Abraham and Sarah Kemp, but instead, Abraham Kemp is there, all right? But he's with a new wife, Sophrona. Sarah is gone.
There's no record of her death, no burial plot, no explanation. One of the most significant events in a person's life is completely undocumented. It's as if she just vanished into thin air.
And just to make things even more confusing, the historical record decides to throw us a curveball. 10 years later, in the 1861 census, Abraham is listed with yet another wife, this time named Anne. So, was this a third wife? Or maybe Sophrona was also known as Anne? The records don't tell us, which only deepens the mystery surrounding Sarah.
So, what happened? This brings us to our final section, a story without an end. And honestly, we can't offer you a neat conclusion. But what we can do is look at the legacy she left behind and the proof that even in her absence, she was definitely not forgotten.
Now this is maybe the most powerful clue of all. Decades after she disappeared, 3 of her sons got married, and when they were asked to name their parents for the official record, they all said the same thing. Their mother was Sarah Kemp. It's her confirmation written back into history by the very children she raised.
So after all of our investigating, this is where the case file stands. We can confirm the pillars of her life: her birth date, her marriage, and her kids. But the beginning and the end of her story, who her parents were, and the exact circumstances of her death, all of that remains a complete mystery.
And so the final, frustrating conclusion is just this one single line. After all that digging, the trail is officially cold. The record is silent.
And this leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Sarah Kemp's story feels so unique, but it's really not. The archives are filled with people, especially women, whose lives are only partially documented. Their final chapters left completely unwritten. Her story is this powerful reminder that history isn't just about what we know, it's also about listening to the silent spaces in between.